It is the third model introduced in the 2024 Rockman X Collaboration. It's everybody's favorite Maverick Hunter-turned-Bloodthirsty Bounty Hunter. It's RMX02 VAVA Pride, with a kit of Self-Restore, Power Missile, Hyper Missile, Light Legs, and the leg ability of Revenger, which buffs all stats minus armor when restoring a broken part into action. Now, as yet another iconic face of the Rockman X series, you can't have a collaboration without featuring everyone's favorite bloodthirsty bounty hunter. And VAVA Pride in this case playing the role of Vile, especially with his original design from X1, most certainly is a very powerful nod in more than one aspect, not just of his ability to come back again and again, but also of his absolute interest and love for all things ballistic. His head of Self-Restore is a limited healing skill that upon activation will basically burst restore all broken parts active on VAVA Pride, not at the 10% like say Rebirth might or Revive, but instead at a impressive 50% as long as the effect is active. At the trade-off of having a much higher HP restoration on use, it does also mean that VAVA Pride only gets one use of Self-Restore. So some caution is best advised and recommended if you are going to use it. Don't use this, say, when you only miss one part, but say when you're right on the hook of being taken out. This will be a really good way to keep VAVA Pride in the game just a little bit more and just a little bit longer, at least until a healer can come in and bring him back to speed. Power Missile on the right arm is a relatively new gunpowder skill, but very easily explained. Simply put, it is just a simple missile attack, which is an AoE across all parts when damaging the opponent, but as a power missile, it gets a times 1.5 damage bonus as long as the user's legs remain intact. Of course, with the extra power does come the cost that you cannot dodge or defend while in cooldown, so some caution is advised if you are planning to use this, and just make sure that Vile's back is well protected if you are planning to use it during his cooldown. His left arm of Hyper Missile is a more conventional gunpowder skill, which instead of being an AoE, instead is a piercing skill. So this will be a lot easier to make use and break a lot of parts at once if you are planning to use it. Whereas Power Missile, or any kind of AoE skill in general, is better suited if you're planning to pepper the foe or prepare them, if not for VAVA Pride, but for someone else to come behind him and finish the job a whole lot easier by breaking a whole lot of parts at once. Of course, because he is using a double gunpowder skill for both his arms, do bear in mind that anyone that is using Gunpowder Guard will nullify pretty much any kind of attempt that he will bring to the field relative to essentially nothing as long as that guard remains in effect. So caution is advised. Flight Legs means that he will have very good very high base mobility as well, and compared to most other flight-legged type models, he's actually not too bad in regards to the kind of stats he brings to the table as well, especially noting that he has a heavy limit on it. With his leg stats, he's packing almost 1100 for his base mobility, a mid 1800s at 1866 for his evade. 591 for his melee resist is definitely not great though, as it means that anyone trying to get up close and personal will most certainly take this bounty hunter down very quickly and very easily. But a shoot resist of 1146 isn't too shabby either, but to complement him and compensate for it, Light Legs do tend to emphasize the lighter armor in trade for the higher evade and mobility, so this is kind of par for the course, so to speak. Plus, it is also a very good nod and mention to the point that Vile in the games has been known to fly around or float on the field, of course with Self-Restore being that nod to him coming back again and again, no matter how many times he gets scrapped. In terms of armor and everything else across the board, compared to most other flight-legged models, he's not bad. I'd say kind of where you'd expect a flight-legged model like him to sit at, with a head HP of about 3419, arms about 3300 apiece, and his legs at 3600. He's a little healthier than most other flight-legged models, but he's also kind of par for the course and just as easily taken out if someone does land a very good hit on him. Plus, the ability of Revenger does tie into Self-Restore decently well, as it means that once he does bring his arms back, he is able to use them just more aggressively than he was before, as long as someone is able to continually bring them back. That being said, though, as a pure set score, I would have to rate VAVA Pride pretty well-rounded 7.5 out of 10 across the board in this case. He synergizes well enough with himself that he does have a contingency plan if he does end up getting broken too quickly. Self-restore as that burst heal to bring any broken parts back into operation, and the leg ability of Revenger also means that upon bringing back the broken parts, they will be more aggressive as long as he can maintain them, and if someone else brings back parts on the field, he can tap into this more and more often. However, given that he is a flight-legged model, he is of course susceptible to anyone using anti-air, so caution is advised. Self-restore you can only use once, so time that very carefully, and as mentioned previous, if someone is using Gunpowder Guard on the field, it will render anything VAVA Pride brings to the field null and void in their entirety. As mixed parts though, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at an 8 out of 10. Given that even though a very high ballista and gunpowder based emphasis is what he brings to the field as a nod to the source material, perhaps mixing it up and say using something more conventional for an arm, or if you choose to use self-restore somewhere else, or his legs especially, with say someone that uses first aid or rebirth or revive or something similar to capitalize on using Revenger over and over, then he can really start cooking with those damage bonuses and those stat boosts with the more times that he ends up bringing back.